Oh, hello, all. Welcome to Caching in the Northwest. This is the official podcast of GeoWoodstock 18 right here in the great Pacific Northwest. Each week, we're going to talk about caches and cachers from here and all around the globe. So while you're fighting over the last trapper keeper in the back to school sale, we'll be caching in the Northwest. And we can't do that until we bring in our... Oh, wait, we don't have a monkey tonight. In fact, we don't have any types of animals with us tonight. It's just me. But wait, you may think I'm alone, but I'm not. There's voices in my head, and I just spilled my water. So this is going to be an exciting episode. My shoe's wet, but we'll move on from there. Tonight, we are talking about international travels and earth caches with the infamous geocacher, Oh Joy. But before we jump into that, a quick reminder that we appreciate the support of all of our patrons who help keep this podcasting coming each and every week. Special thanks to Landsharks, our corporate Denali level sponsor. You want to know more about supporting the show? Click that Patreon link on the cachingandw.com website. Now, we have a glow here because we love glows each and every week. We love a geocaching log of the week. Whether you read it, whether you wrote it, we want to hear about it because great logs simply make geocaching better. Send an email or a field recording to feedback@cachingandw.com. Call into 253-693-TFTC or use the voicemail tool on the website and show us how you glow. Now, we ask you to call into that number, 253-693-TFTC. And folks, it works because we've got a glow this evening from Dora Moore. You know what? Let's take a listen.
First, let me say that I was not prepared for this cache today. I was ambushed. Nankikoro was heading to Surrey on an errand and invited me along because she knows I've been housebound with an injury and thought I'd enjoy an outing. We stopped and picked Peppermint Patty 53 up on the way as well because we thought she could use some fresh air too. Imagine our surprise when PP 53 hobbled out of her house on a bad ankle. So there we were, Nankikoro and two princess cachers who should have been limited to T1 or T1.5 caches. But where did we end up? Here, or at least within 400 meters of here. Nankikoro has been obsessing about this cache since it was published, and apparently today was the day to go get it. Neither PP53 nor I had our GPSRs on when Nankikoro drove into the other side of the very busy park and found the only available parking spot at the bottom of a steep grade. "You'll be fine," she told us. So we hobbled our way up the hill and across the road and through the athletic park to the half-full parking lot at the starting point for this cache. At which point I smacked Nankikoro in the head, and for which I said I'm sorry, but I'm not. We found what we needed at the start and headed for the two black and yellow signs. I told Nankikoro to go get the car, bring it to the right spot, and catch up to us on the trail. I figured at the speed both PP53 and I were walking, she'd meet us at the fork in the road, which was not mentioned in the cache description, but which certainly did exist. So off she went, looking back contritely and asking, "What if I can't find you?" PP53 took care of that potential problem. She used her walking pole and I used a crutch, and we gathered sticks and left a trail that only someone Wexting would miss. Nankikoro caught up to us laughing as we were beginning to count poles. We all contributed to the figuring out of clues from that point on, and we made Nankikoro do the hard part at the end, and we all came away happy. Sore and exhausted, but mostly happy. Thanks for the fun. This one gets a fave from me for the experience of it.
Oh, thank you so much, Dora Moore, for calling that in. Isn't that better than me reading it in my voice? I wouldn't have the same inflections. Dora Moore, thank you. I think you already have the 2019 Glow badge, that the electronic form that you can put right there in your profile. If you don't, send me an email and I'll make sure you get it. Well, folks, I don't know if last weekend you were at the Ape event, but I was. And you know what? I think you were, because I think I met most of you, saw you there. It was a great event. So hats off to the Ape Queen, JT Coffee, and the whole WSGA crew who worked like, well, I want to say dogs, but I think they worked like monkeys or apes to get that event pulled off. It was a lot of work that went into it. And, it really shows. We were talking that, this isn't a typical mega event. You don't have, 500 people all clustered in one small area, but they're spread out over a couple of miles. So it produces a much lighter, easier, less noisy atmosphere. It's just, it's a lot less stress. So I hope you had a chance to come by the Caching in the Northwest booth if you were at Ape. Sorry, I almost said GeoWoodstock because, that's coming up and that's been on my mind. But if you were at Ape, I hope you came by and saw it. I had some swag to give away. We got to meet people like Tom Frey, the creator of one of my favorite websites, cachetour.no. I sat right next to Nick Hubbard, the creator of Cachly. I mean, just some great people, not to mention all the great patrons right here from Caching in the Northwest. Well, folks, tonight I've got an interview with Joy. And I said a world-renowned geocacher by any stretch of the imagination. This is a pre-recorded interview, so we're going to jump into it. It's about 40 minutes long. So I've got some slides to show you. If you're watching live, if you're watching on YouTube, don't worry. You're not just going to sit here and look at my face all day because, I'm doing nothing. I'm going to sit here and play video games while this is going on. No, I'm not. I'm just joking with you. But let's jump into this interview with Joy. I am in Snake Lake Park on a beautiful Tuesday evening. It's 75 degrees outside. That's 24 Celsius for Canadians and rebel Americans. And I am here with Joy. Joy, thank you for joining us this evening.
You're welcome.
Now, you are a world-renowned geocacher. There's no doubt about that. How many countries have you geocached in your brief career?
I think it's 49 or 50.
Wow. Seriously?
Yes, but my career hasn't been brief.
Explain.
It's been 16 years.
Okay, that's a good time. Yeah, since we're coming up on the 20th anniversary of geocaching. That is. What got you into geocaching?
Well, a couple of articles in a newspaper, a magazine, and my daughter. They all happened at the same time. And it's like, okay, I'll try it. And then somebody said, here's some money for helping me out. Go spend it on something frivolous. So I went and bought a GPS. And that got it started.
That wouldn't seem frivolous today, now would it?
No, a phone would.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Yeah. So you prefer a GPS over a phone to geocache with?
I have not tried the phone app. I know. I'm old-fashioned.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I have to ask you then, you use the GPS for the Mystery at the Museum promotion that we just had?
Yes, but I went home in between finding different kinds of caches to pick out what the next batch were going to be the next day.
Very good. So you said you've been to 50 countries around the world. Did you say 49 or 50?
I should have looked up those statistics, but I'm not sure.
Let's say 50. It's an easy number to remember.
Okay.
What are some of the most memorable stops that you've made?
Well, first in Ireland, because of the awesome hostel I stayed at all by myself for 5 days. And then I would say Isle of Man, because out of the blue, I met a couple that have become good friends, and they toured me around when I flew over there for a day. But highlight of my traveling is India. The people there were just wonderful. They accepted me for who I was. They like that I ate with my fingers. They like that I wore their kind of clothes. It was an incredible trip.
And you still eat with your fingers, even here.
Not in public.
Okay. Oh, now is there any place on you or any spot on your I want to go to this place list that you haven't been to yet?
Not well, yes, I'd like to go to the Holy Land.
Very good. Geocaching there, I think it's fine, but is it there's a I don't think it's Israel. There's one country there that doesn't want you to bring a GPS in.
Really?
And I can't remember what it is.
Well, I'm going to Turkey next spring, which will have a few of the biblical locations that I've always heard about since I was a little child.
Very nice. And you're going next spring. Wow, that's not that far away.
No, but I have 3 other trips before then.
Are you kidding me? Wait a minute. So you're going to Turkey in the spring, but you've got 3 other trips planned before then. Now, how do you do this? Okay, tell us where those trips are.
Well, the first one in a couple of weeks is to Colombia with a group of friends. Met one of the ladies in India on that trip, and she introduced me to all her friends. We were a really international group. We went to Colombia last summer, and we decided to go back there this year. That's Olivia's hometown, so we just go, and she knows the country very well. Then in the end of October, I'm going to be going to Egypt with 3 of those people. In January, with just Olivia, I'm going to go to Laos, Cambodia, Thailand, and Vietnam.
I'm just sitting here shaking my head. This is incredible. Okay, so folks you've met in India, you're going with to Colombia, and then Egypt, and then Southwest Asia. Wow. How do you meet friends like this?
Well, I was on a tour in India with one of the companies, and Olivia just happened to be on the same tour. And we are the 2 people who were willing to eat with our fingers, which got us favorite points from the chef on the houseboat and stuff like that. And so she said later, "You're my kind of person. Come with me to Colombia with my friends."
So here's a caching in the Northwest travel tip. Next time you're out, eat with your fingers. You'll make friends.
No, not always. Not always. Depends where you're going.
Okay. I'll give you that. So I'm just amazed. So this will make, if the count is right, we're already talking 55 countries by the end of this year.
No, by the end of next February. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's just amazing. Is there any place you've gone that you regret going to?
No, I don't think so. I really don't. Now, I have my favorite places I'd go back to, but no regrets. I'm happy I've done all I've done.
Of course. I just had to ask that, but I think I already knew the answer. Now, when you're going to these countries, are you geocaching as well as just going as a tourist?
I try to sneak a few in, but it's sometimes very difficult. We actually in Mongolia had to replace a cache for the cache owner because it was the only one we were going to be close to.
Well, that's very nice. There's nothing like cache maintenance. It's just the fact that you had to travel, how many thousands of miles for this cache maintenance.
That's true. Maybe they'll come back and take care of mine someday.
Oh, there you go. Okay. It gives you good cache maintenance karma.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're caching solely by GPS. So you're planning all your caches ahead of time to go to. What makes what puts a cache on the list for the country that you're visiting?
Well, I just do a search for all of them, and then I look at which ones are complicated, which ones have terrain that are too high, which ones are going to be near the hotels where we're staying, a whole series of things. And then I download way too many just in case.
That's definitely the way to go, because if you happen to go to one that's not there, and that doesn't work out to find any others on your trip, that makes sense. You always download more than you need. It's just digital data. You can get rid of it when you're done.
Right. And the special thing for me is that in most of the countries, I found an earth cache. Yeah.
Now, you're quite well known for your earth caches. And I have to say, of the earth caches that I found pretty much anywhere, including this area, yours are by far more detailed and more geological than most earth caches. What draws you to the earth cache category?
Well, first of all, I just started doing them and learned to love geology, started getting books, reading books, studying. And then I found that when I do an earth cache, I probably put in 80 hours worth of reading and studying before I even start writing them. And I guess that's part of being an old school teacher, is that I want to educate people. I want them to get excited about it. So I put all sorts of stuff. And when they send answers, if they're not exactly right, I will respond to every single one, and I will explain things that might be a new concept for them.
Wow, that's impressive. So I just was up on Mount Rainier in the last month, and you've got, I don't know how many earth caches up there. You've got a lot up there. 8 she has. She's pointing up 8 fingers. She has 8 earth caches on Mount Rainier. And I was at, for us in Tacoma, it's the backside of the mountain. Is that Paradise? No, that's not Paradise. That's
Paradise is more, it's west. Sunrise would be east.
Yeah, there you go, Sunrise. And that's the side I had not been on before. Mm-hmm. And there's a large parking lot up there with 2 earth caches, one on either side, and they are so totally different because one of them is yours and one of them is not. And reading through the description, I'm like, yeah, this is an Ojoy earth cache. The detail you've put in there of how geology,
how the glaciers are formed. Yeah. But the other thing is that there have been big changes in earth cache requirements. It used to be you could use signboards and people could just read and answer. That is no longer allowed. So you have to do your own research and come up with things that are not on the signboard.
Now, you've also hosted an event, this is a couple of years ago now, to help people understand how to put an earth cache together. And some of the material that you used came from books that I don't know if I would have ever found in a library. How do you get this information?
Actually, through the folks at Geological Society of America that I got to know, and they said, try this, look at this. I got this sample copy. I don't need it because I have my own copy. So why don't you take this home with you? That's when I was in Denver, places like that.
Wow. Okay. So that's a great place to start, is the Geological Society, and get some information from them. And some, are you getting background for them, or are they just giving you the information to research?
They're basically giving me books to read for my areas, for my major interests, and then one general geology book. I can't give you the author right now, but if you look at my Mount Rainier earth caches, it probably is listed there. Okay.
I know you've helped me on an earth cache, and some of the data you gave me was amazing. I'm reading through it and going, okay, I understand what they're saying, but I've never seen this term, and I've never seen this term, but I understand basically what it means. You can tell by context what it's supposed to mean. And I came out of that earth cache going, wow, I've learned something, and I'm just the one putting it out.
Yeah, that's an earth cache where there is some controversy about what people are looking at, and you had to decide which way you were going to go. That's a tough thing to do.
Yeah, and it was part of the Rainier 100 series, so I didn't want to make it too difficult because that's just not fair for the people trying to knock this out quickly and get around and get them. But I wanted it, challenging enough So I ended up making some questions optional, and not everybody answers the optional questions, but those that do at least give it the old college try, I say, or the old geological try.
Yeah, I know. And it's something I learned while doing this, which is not commonly known, I guess, is that when the bedrock is forming deep inside of the earth, it actually cools there and it contracts, forming cracks. So when you get it rising up from uprising later on, you see those cracks, and that plays into a few of my earth caches.
Interesting. That makes perfect sense. I'd never thought about it though. Yeah. What other tips do you have?
Not a lot of others except study, read, make sure you know what you're talking about. And the other recommendation I would have is that make sure you're willing to respond to people as long as you keep the earth cache alive.
Exactly. And I believe that's a requirement for the earth cache, but nonetheless, I do respond to everybody who puts in or doesn't answer for the earth cache. And what's funny is I can tell those who've done it online and those who did it on site, because the answers, like say in Wikipedia, are not exactly the ones that are on the board there. So I give them a couple of softballs. Here, I want this answer off the board. I want this, and then I work into it a little bit, and you can tell who has actually been there and who hasn't.
That's something that geocaching reinstated, that you may require photos at the site. And I'm so relieved about that, because you now don't have to worry that someone did it from a book at home in another country even, and just send the answers in and hope they're right.
Yeah. When it first came out, I was pretty lenient, and I thought, no, I'm not going to be lenient. If they were there, this answer is readily available, I'm going to say no. Look again, maybe take a picture, look back at your picture and see if this is right. Because this tells me that they did it from home. I blame the Germans for that.
I hope there's none of them listening.
I hope not either. I'm of German descent, so I guess I can say that, right? So I mean, now with earth caches, obviously, the glacial erratics, the waterfalls, those are pretty much done. What should a person look for to place a new geocache? What kind of geological I want to say element should they look for?
Okay, some of the things that they are no longer allowing are basalt columns, erratic rocks, and waterfalls. And unless there's something very unique about them, I'm working currently on an erratic rock, but it's because it's the furthest south of the ice sheet that came down into our area. It's the furthest south, plus all the questions will be related to the composition of the rock rather than how big is it, how much do you think it weighs, that kind of thing. They've said enough of those, so that's something to know.
It's about yay big and it weighs a lot. Did I get it right?
Yes.
Okay.
Very good. Perfect answer.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, glacial erratics. Aren't they fun? It's funny, before geocaching, I had no idea what a glacial erratic was.
No, that's true. And so it's good that there are some, and there's some spectacular ones. There's one up in Seattle. There's one on Whidbey Island. And in a book that I have, there are 5 that are featured. Those 2 are featured, plus the one I'm going to write the earth cache on. I forget what the other 2 are right offhand.
That's okay. That gives somebody else a chance to maybe go put an earth cache out. You have to do is figure out what the other 2 are.
Yeah, you can contact me. Of course, I will send you the names, but you've got to find something different about it.
There you go. And so, Joy, you are more than willing to help people out with earth caches, give them an idea if they want to place an earth cache, or, the write-up is really what I'm getting to. Is they want the write-up, you will help them a little bit to help flesh that out and give it some good detail.
Yeah, I'd be willing to do that. You do need to come up with the area and what it's going to be about before I can really help you.
Yeah. And so don't come up with a waterfall and expect Joy to make it work for you. That's not going to happen. But yeah. And if you've been caching in the Northwest for very long, you have run into an Oh Joy Earth cache, maybe an Oh Joy physical cache. You've got a few of those out as well.
Yeah, I think I have it's close to 300 that are now active.
And we are here, like I said earlier, in Snake Lake Park. And this is one of your favorite parks because I remember I think you had 5 or 6 in here early on.
7. I had 7, but one that nobody knows about.
Now, you can't just leave it at that. We have to get a little more detail to understand what you're talking about. How can there be a geocache that no one knows about?
You have to solve the puzzle first. It's a puzzle.
Okay, I'll give you that. Is it published, though?
It was published back in 2005, I believe.
And is it still active here?
Absolutely.
What's it called?
I'm not going to say because then you know where to come for the final.
Oh, good point. Well, this is quite a big park. I don't think you'd be able to brute force it. Well, maybe you could.
You could. In this park, you could because it's so covered with caches. There's only one possible spot, and that's where it is. I put out the first 6 that I put here to, you might say, protect my puzzle cache.
Now the truth comes out. That's the only reason you put out the physical caches is to protect your puzzle cache.
Yes.
Okay, reviewers, you didn't hear any of that.
That's nothing wrong. Nothing against the guidelines. They're all part the 10th of a mile.
No, and this is a great park to be able to walk through. It is, even in the winter months, it's open in the evenings, and you can walk through. And it's got such great tree cover that even if it's sprinkling outside, you're going to be just fine. You're not going to get too wet.
Yeah, and there's plenty of caches to find if you haven't been here before. If you've been here before, you know how nice it is.
Yeah, that's right. So come on out to Snake Lake Park. You're going to love it right here in Tacoma, across from Cheney Stadium, where they're having a baseball game this evening. But we can't hear it here.
Very quiet. Yeah, I can hear a few whistles in the background, but
there we go. Just as I said something, somebody must have hit a home run.
Yeah, good for them. I hope it's our team.
Go team. So, Joy, you started traveling a couple of years ago, and you hit 50 countries with 5 more to go in your plans. I don't know if you have more than that already planned out. You probably do, but don't tell me because I get jealous. Okay, so just don't tell me anymore. Now, you've done a couple of Earth cache trips focusing on Earth caching. Tell me about, let's start with, obvious place to start is the first one. Let's start with the first one.
Okay, so I had found caches, Earth caches, in every state, including Washington, D.C., except Hawaii. And it's like, I really want to go to Hawaii and get one. So when the Geological Society offered an Earth cache trip to Hawaii, I took it. And I went there and met some wonderful people, met the man who started it, later went and found the first 2 Earth caches he placed in Australia even. But I got excited about geology thanks to that trip. And I got home and I looked up and they were going to offer one to Iceland. And it's like, okay, I want to go there. My kids were at my house and we were chatting. Yeah, I'd really like to do it. And it's like, well, Mom, do it. It's your money. We don't need it. And so I signed up for it. A friend signed up for it with me. And we made a whole new group of friends that have remained friends. In fact, one of them I have seen now, both in New Zealand and in Africa. We visited together in those 2 places for a day. So that lasted forever. So that really got me started, and now I'm going to get Earth caches if possible, wherever I go.
Now, so you went with the one of the 2 original GeoAwares, right? If we've gone with both of them. So when we refer to earth caching, we refer to geo-aware as far as the username. And there's just become this iconic name. I don't know if we know a face to it, but you do. So what was that first trip to Hawaii like?
Well, I had just gotten home from visiting many, many states to finish up my earth caches in every state in the U.S. I was home for a few days, jumped on a plane, and got over there. And the person who was in charge at the time, the first GeoAware, is Gary. And Gary met us there and took us to a wonderful place to stay. And we got our own food, but we would go out for dinner every so often. But we all had kitchen facilities, so we could cook breakfast, make lunches, even make dinner if we needed to. And we went out during the day and found earth caches and saw geological things that didn't have earth caches. 3 people, including me, wrote earth caches about those places once we got home. Now, in the early days of caching, earth caching, when it was just GeoAware, what you did was you wrote it up, you sent it to him. He approved it and then adopted it to you. And so it was a whole different process at that time, which has now changed. You do it just like you do any normal cache, except that the reviewer is one specifically for earth caches.
I had no idea that's how it was done originally. It makes sense, and it puts that that seal of approval on it that this really is something. When you went to Hawaii, I assume you went to the Big Island. That's where I would think of earth caching. That has far more features than.
Yeah, there were areas we couldn't go because of flowing lava. Even then, of course, now it's even worse. I had to archive. One of my caches was about tree molds, which are holes in the ground, and the new lava filled them all up. And so I had to archive it because I'm not over there to fix it up and make it new. So that one is gone. The other one about the lava trees, the ones that stick up above the ground, is still alive because people reported it's fine. You can open it up again. So it's an exciting place. It's just wonderful for earth caching there.
Joy, I could see you going to the lava flows and digging out the holes there so that the lava didn't fill them up.
You mean stand there and protect it and wave the lava in a different direction?
Yes, exactly. This is my earth cache. You're not taking it away. But, that brings up a really good point. When we're talking about earth caching, we're talking about geological events. And as far as I know, we're still on the earth and geological events are still happening.
Yeah, they are. They definitely are. And that's something I have to be careful about, is because I have actually archived a few earth caches because things have changed so much on Mount St. Helens that you just couldn't find what I was looking for anymore. I couldn't get people to the right locations. Big trees had grown up. The river had started flowing that way. And so I just archived them because I couldn't come up with an alternate way for it. I have one right now that I'm considering doing the same thing for because it's no longer related to geology. And so, it's why have it? It just doesn't make sense.
You have one is it Spirit Lake? You probably have multiple around Mount St. Helens, but there's another lake right near Mount St. Helens with a very unique colored water because of the eruption. I want to say the ash has helped to change the color of the water or change the pH of the water to make a color change. I can't remember what it is now.
The only one that I have on a lake there is called A Lake is Born. And that was all full of all sorts of stuff. And in 3 years, it became totally clear, but it's not a color. But it does have a hummock in the middle of it. And what a lot of people don't know is that the landslide happened before the explosion. So the landslide got down as far as where the Hummocks Trail is now, where A Lake is Born, that earth cache. It got that far down before the ash caught up to it and past it. And there's actually one hummock on the Hummock Trail you can see is half ash and half land from the landslide.
Wow. Is now the landslide, is that the Lahar?
Those are hummocks.
Those Okay. I don't know. I know I've seen the word hummock before, but I couldn't tell you how to define it.
Oh, they're the mounds of earth that slid down from the landslide and just left mounds all over the place, far down below the crater.
Like huge conical. Yeah, kind of. I'm trying to think of the like a prairie dog or something. Yeah, a monster prairie dog has been digging there. Yeah. Yes, there's a couple of good spots at Mount St. Helens where you look out, and it's just lump after lump after lump of dirt. Yeah, that. Thank you. That's what they're called.
So if you are actually up at the top of Mount St. Helens, at Johnson Ridge, if you're there and you look at the river that's flowing down below, you can see how the ash has covered the hummocks. You can see places where it's cut, where you see land that is covered with ash that's now flat on top.
I wasn't here in Washington State during the eruption. I was actually in Ohio. And I remember my dad called me outside, and up in the sky, there was this streak of black in the jet stream where the ash had gone up to the jet stream. And he says, that's from the volcano that erupted on the West Coast. But my wife is, every time we're driving east on 90, she says, that hill right there didn't used to be here. That's the ash they pulled up, they dredged up out of the river. And now you look at it, it looks just like a normal hill. I mean, it's, everything's growing on it, but it was a pile of ash that has now been adopted into the landscape.
Yeah, it is changing. The Hummocks Trail is wonderful. I go there at least once a year and walk that trail because you can see the changes. There's growth happening. There's also some erosion happening on them. And so you wonder, when is the balance? But they will all probably eventually will still be hilly. It won't be flat ground.
Interesting. I'm going to have to go back up there. I went there a couple of years ago with my son, and he did. I wanted to hike as far as we could around Mount St. Helens, and he wasn't up to it but he's older and stronger now, so it shouldn't be too much of an issue. Or I just won't take him. I'll do it on my own.
Yeah, I love going up there. It's an awesome place. But you shouldn't skip the south side of the mountain either, because there you have the Ape Caves, and then there's an earth cache there that I put out called Impressions of a Tree, where you can actually crawl through what used to be a tree. The lava, it felled the tree, and then it deteriorated, and you can actually crawl through what used to be the trunk of the tree.
So the lava not felled the tree and then flowed around the outside of it, and because of I would assume the heat, and solidified, and so you have the rock outline of the tree, but the wood itself is gone.
Yeah, when you're in there, you can actually see where the bark could be and that type of thing. So that's one of the questions: is what do you see when you're inside anything that indicates the tree used to be in there?
Wow, that's really cool. Yeah, my son and I did the Ape Caves, and that was a lot of fun. That's worth going to. Now, the next one I need to go to are the ice caves, but not this time of year.
Something I probably will never do physically, but it would be a dream. Yes.
Well, we're talking the ones here in Washington State, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But you won't do it.
Not unless I have somebody who's willing to go very slowly with an old lady.
I'll go with you.
Okay. In that case, I'll think about it.
Don't go in the summer, folks. Do it in the winter or late spring or early spring.
Or go to Norway. There you go. Just go do the one sleeping in the ice in Norway or wherever they do that. Sweden, maybe.
The ice hotel.
Yeah. That would be fun, I think.
I don't mind being outside in the ice. I don't know if I could sleep in a room made of ice.
I think my cold feet would keep me awake all night.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I'd like to go visit, but I don't know if I'd stay there. Okay, so that was Hawaii. Mm-hmm. Now, the second trip was to Iceland. Yes. And since we're talking about ice, see that segue? I just came up with it now. It wasn't real clean, but we're going there. So Iceland which is green, and Greenland, which is covered with ice. Somehow they got those names mixed up. And there you went with the other GeoAware. Tell us how that story came about.
Well, that's the one I mentioned that my kid said, "Mom, go," because I was interested in it. And then we went there, and a couple of us went 4 or 5 days early, and we looped all around the entire country, all the way up to the north, to the east, and saw things that you don't normally see when you go there. Then we came back and met the group and did what they call the Golden Circle, and that just takes you to the main gorgeous waterfalls, and it takes you to where you can go out and see chunks of the glacier floating in a lake. We went out on a duck boat and so forth, that kind of thing. And it just takes you to incredible spots. Anybody can take that tour, even if you don't do it with geocaching. But if you want to do it with a geocacher, I might be able to get you in touch with someone that's running tours there.
Oh, that'd be a great source. So most people, when they visit Iceland, just go to Reykjavik and day tours from there. But you took the time to go around the entire island.
We were supposed to fly to the island at the northernmost part because I wanted so badly to walk across the Arctic Circle. Unfortunately, the only day we could do it, it got foggy and they canceled all the flights. So I still have that. Maybe should go on my bucket list. I want to walk across the Arctic Circle.
Well, you don't have to leave this continent. You could go up north into Canada and my favorite province, Nunavut.
And then, as he told me earlier, I'll have none of it.
Hey, that's my line.
Okay. But I did fly directly over the North Pole once. That was so absolutely intriguing. That was on the way home from India. And we flew over the North Pole. Everybody else is sleeping. But the sun never fully set. There was always a glow on the horizon. And when we went over the North Pole, instead of being on the west of the airplane, I was on the east of the airplane, east side. And I lost a day because we crossed the international date line. It was just really incredible. And I'm taking pictures like crazy. It was wonderful.
Is that why you're looking so young? You've lost a day?
Yeah, I keep going backwards around the world.
Okay. Well, if it works for you. Did you happen to see the northern lights as you were flying over?
No, because the sun was still lighting the sky too much. See, we were so high up that the sun, even though it was down south and we didn't see the sun, it's still the glow of it was coming up around the earth.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. Have you been able to see the northern lights lately here?
They've been here?
Yeah, they've come down as far. We were supposed to be able to see it in Tacoma. People have taken pictures, but I got up at 2 a.m. one morning and looked. I couldn't see a thing, even though it was clear.
No, the best place I've seen was up in Alberta. I was there with my cousin, and she was tired, so I said, I'm just going to go take a drive. And I saw this light, and I thought it was city lights and kind of ignored it. And then I realized, wait a minute, there's no city out there. So I drove further and then just sat in the car in a cornfield for about half an hour watching them. And I finally said, okay, I got to get back or she's going to worry. And just as I started the motor up, the lights shut off. It was like it was made like magic.
Just for you.
Yes.
Made just for you.
Yeah.
How very cool. Yeah, I haven't seen them in person, but I need to one day. Yeah. Alberta is the place to go, huh?
Well, it's just far enough north. I'm not sure if it was Alberta, man. It was in Vegreville is the name of the town, which actually has the world's largest egg. And the one in Washington State is not the world's. It's Washington's. It's the U.S.'s, but it's not in the world because that one is much larger. And it's a wind vane as well. It moves as the wind changes.
Interesting. Huh. Now I want to go see it. You're going to make me travel, aren't you?
Absolutely. When you can, you should. Yeah. That's a benefit of having retired is that you have more time and you have that ability. And so, when you're ready, take advantage of it. If you're not yet ready, look forward to it.
Well, and if you're not yet ready, start eating with your hands and it'll help you prepare for these trips.
and wear Indian clothes.
Nothing wrong with that. They're comfortable. You get good airflow.
Yeah, I loved them. I just really enjoyed doing that.
So, are the GeoAwares doing any more earth caching trips that you know of?
One of them has retired from Geological Society, and he's the person I would get you in touch with if you wanted to go on a trip. He works mainly with educators, but probably would include other people. And I know he ran one last year to Iceland. He's probably doing others.
Oh, so he did one as early as last year. Okay. So there could still be chances that we're going to have to look that up. I'll put something in the show notes if I can find it, because we have people that want to go. Well, Joy, thank you so much. I count you as a personal friend, and now I hope our podcast listeners will count you as a friend as well. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us, telling us about your earth caches, telling us about your adventures. It is, well, to me, so very interesting, and I know other people will find it that way as well.
Thanks ever so much for the chance and the wonderful place where we're sitting doing this. That is just so great.
Well, I'm glad you came up with this, because I was pretty uninventive in my planning of this, and I was just rushed at work, and I'm like, I just need a play. I don't know. So luckily you went to the restaurant early and said, nope, it's packed. They're not seating people. Well, let's go find somewhere else. So thank you.
You're welcome ever so much.
Oh, Joy. Isn't she wonderful?
She is.
There you go. That was an interview. We sat in a park and talked and chatted, and now Joy like I know Joy. Hey, Wits End, you're here.
Hey, I'm here. No, I'm here. You're there.
Oh,
something like that.
Yeah.
Long day at work. Got home late, but I'm here for at least part of the podcast.
Nice. Oh, and there's none of it jokes throughout the chat now.
Well, of course, I would be disappointed if there was not.
I know. It's Canadian humor. Canadian humor. How often do you get to use it?
Let's see. I got home late and just pulled this up. So where do I even find the chat? I'm still kind of learning this whole new system that you implemented while I was out of town.
Well, I was hoping you could see it there in the StreamYard under comments, but maybe you can't.
Yeah, I think I'm missing that.
Okay. Well,
okay.
We'll get to it next week. We'll make sure you're in next week.
I will do my best.
What's
happening next week?
Next week is happening. Next, as we were, as Joy and I were chatting, we talked about the trip to Iceland that Dora Moore went with her. 10 days. They explored Iceland, got earth caches, and did all the fun stuff that one would do in Iceland. Joyce, go ahead.
I'm going to have to put that on my bucket list.
Yeah.
I'm just having a 10-day long vacation. I don't know what that's like.
Okay. Let's start with 10 days, and then we'll get you out of the country.
Okay.
Maybe we should start with 5. We don't want to wear you out with a full 10 in a row.
I'm willing to risk it.
Okay. Oh, so Joyce forwarded me an email she got from Gary, one of the GeoWares, who says, and she asked, are there any more trips to Iceland? Gary says, yes, we will run a trip to Iceland in 2021. It's already up on our website, although we're just taking names at this stage and not registrations. And here's the page. So there it is. In case you're listening and not watching live, or watching on YouTube later, well, you would have to be live to watch, right? Maybe.
I suppose.
Let's not go there. It's Geo, etc. That's GeoETC.com, Iceland / Iceland 2021. GeoEtc.com / Iceland 2021.
That trip is open to everyone. Spread that link far and wide.
That's right. And you can find out more if you go to GeoEtc.com / field-adventures. They still have trips, or they did Well, in 2020. We're not in 2020 yet. I'm sorry. I've been doing 2020 planning. So I thought, oh, it's already happened.
No, we're close to it. And maybe somebody is listening to this podcast and it's currently 2020.
Oh,
You never know.
they still have trips to Hawaii.
Oh,
And I forgot the other places. The volcanoes of Italy, Australia, and geology and land formations, discover Iceland, and well, that's it. Trip costs. They don't tell you what the trip costs, but they help you.
if you have to ask, you can't afford. No,
That's
not
probably
true.
it's probably
Well, for me, it probably is actually. Yeah.
so. Dora Moore says if they have the same as Icelandic guide they had last time, it will be absolutely amazing. How many Icelandic guides can there be?
At least one.
That's right. And beyond that, I'm not exactly sure.
That's right.
But Ted, it's good to have you back.
Hey, thanks. It's good to be here, albeit briefly. At least I'm here for a little while.
That's right. Well, folks, if you get a chance, go find some of Ojoy's earth caches. They're all over the Northwest. You don't have to travel far.
And they're spectacular.
They really are. And they're, I don't want to use the term difficult, but they're technical, and you really have to put some thought into it. You're not just reading from a plaque and answering questions. So they're very good. Well, and she said earlier in the interview, she puts in about 80 hours of study per earth cache, and it shows.
Yeah.
So-
Geocaching is basically her full-time job now that she's retired.
Yeah. That and traveling.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard, she's gone to 50 countries and she's got 5 more in the works before
Wow.
February.
That's awesome.
So
Something I can aspire to.
yes, good for her. MC3 Cats wants to know, how about a, whoops, how come it didn't show? There we go. No, there it is. How about a geo trip to none of it?
Okay.
To which Bryling says, make it cheap enough and I'm in, because you can't drive there. Oh, you can.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah. If you have the right vehicle, you can drive.
I'm willing to bet that Top Gear could drive there. They could build something that would drive there.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of those outfitted Toyota 4x4s,
Yeah.
they can climb straight up a brick wall. So, yeah, but that's not what we're talking about right now. B Pendragon says, not with that attitude. Oh, wait, you can show this. There you go. There we go. So, folks, go look at geoetcetera.com's website. See if you can get on any of these earth caching trips that he's got planned. I would love to be able to go to Iceland. That seems like such a remote, exotic location.
That'd be cool.
I mean, the capital's named Reykjavik. I don't know. It just sounds like a lot of fun. I had to read this and read it a second time because I couldn't quite figure out what they were saying. What is Bryling saying here?
Oh, good luck driving through the northern swamps. I hear they have ROUSs. I don't think they exist.
What is an ROUS?
Rodents of unusual size. I don't think they exist. Yes.
Oh, very well done. I love a good movie reference.
And that is a good movie. And there are lots of references in that movie.
That's right. Well, folks, we want to thank you for taking the time to tune in this evening. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Caching in the Northwest with O'Joy. But most of all, we want to take a moment to thank Landsharks. That's our corporate Denali level sponsor. Landsharks.ca is the outdoor adventure and geocaching store. Check them out online or go in person and visit their great store in Victoria, BC. They're open 6 days a week, except holidays, and they ship online orders every day. They never miss a day. We also want to thank our faithful Denali level supporters. That's Landsharks, JP Geo Designs, Limax, Team Squirrel, and worldcaching.com. You know, if you want to know more about supporting the show, click that Patreon link on the cachingandw.com website.
That's right. And we'd like to thank our patrons who have done so, such as Broncos Fan for Life,
Sprouter,
Camp Clan,
Tick Magnet,
Kev MacD,
Subway Mark,
Dora Moore,
Dune Buddy,
Kid Vegas 19,
GeoNav Pros,
Wino Seattle,
Ackerdoc,
Billy Robson,
Genies,
Antaeus,
Keats 94,
Trexer Zero,
MC3 Cats,
Kennel Barb,
M Nerve,
Wet Coaster and Greenwords,
Sege Hove,
Alarobrick,
Keepers of the Cash Flow,
Highlands Guy,
the Geo Travelers,
Boomer 365,
GSM times 2,
Kitty Quest,
T Sayer,
Seebeck Tribe,
and CRS 98.
All right. Well,
Ooh.
until next week, when hopefully it'll be somewhat more normal, if there is such a thing for
What
caching
is
in the Northwest. It's just a setting on the dryer, really.
Mhm.
But let's hope that all three hosts can be here for the full show. How about that? That would be awesome. Until then, what if somebody wanted to get in touch with you, Chris of the Northwest?
Well, you
How
know,
could they do that?
the easiest way is to find me on Twitter. That's at CachingNW. You know, occasionally I'm on that Facebook thing. You've probably heard of it just because of the security problems you've heard of Facebook. That's also CachingNW. Instagram, I'm Caching in the Northwest. What about you, Wits End?
Wits End here at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and well, there's the geocaching.com message center.
You
It's
know,
a
I
great
forget about that one. That's a good
Yeah.
one.
It's a great one, especially when you don't know the social media handles of a geocacher. You can usually find them there and send them a message. I did that just this week.
Does it work?
It does. I got responses. So there you go.
Ooh, so very responsive.
Yeah.
You know what? You can also head on over to cachingNW.com/host, read our bios, and find all those links that we just mentioned, and a few secret ones that may take you to Iceland. But of course, we want to thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode of Caching in the Northwest. Don't forget that you can be part of the show, a part of the show. It's a really big shoe. Just like Dora Moore that called into 253-693-TFTC. You can leave us a comment, ask a question, or send me a new water cup because mine broke when it hit the ground.
Oh.
Of course, you can email us at feedback@cachingNW.com. Your support helps keep quality shows coming. If you like the show, click the Patreon link on the cachingNW.com website and subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, lots of different places. Give us a thumbs up or even a review. The show's produced by Chris Umfenauer, Jim Paulwitz, and Jay Kennedy. It's licensed under a Creative Commons Attributions 3.0 license, copyright 2019 by Chris Umfenauer. And folks, we encourage you to stay tuned for
The after show.
There was a little delay, but Wits End really said it.
Ooh. And tune in next week and find out what happens when a rude American invades a Canadian breakfast.
Oh.
No.
Sounds like an I-90 deal. Well,
I apparently am incapable of finding the chat. So if there's anything interesting in there, you'll have to let me know.
you know, let's see. I thought I saw a couple of Fatas moments, but I would have to go back and look now. Well, Brian Link says, I used to see the Northern Lights all the time from my bus stop on the way to work in the cold, wintry mornings. But that wasn't necessarily Fatas. Interesting enough, apparently we had two silent hosts, and Iham wants to know which one is Penn and which one is Teller. Wits End, you must be Teller because we're hearing my voice. Okay. Oh. Okay, I don't see any more Fatas-like information. Okay, there. I'm clicking on things and they don't Well, MC3 Cats wants to know how the I-90 breakfast was. Oh, our host is silent. Speak. Okay.
I thoroughly enjoyed my breakfast.
Did you eat it all?
I did.
Did you have the I-90?
No, I think I had the house special. I had an omelet, but it was still delicious. And then the I-90 specials that I saw looked delicious as well. Kev MacD said it was awesome, and he was there too. I saw him.
And some had smaller breakfasts.
Yes.
Why would there be smaller breakfasts?
Well, there was a smaller member of the Mulder clan there.
Oh, there you go.
So, yeah. Yeah, it was a good time hanging out with the Canadians. Yeah, my Canadian geese.
You know,
They taste like chicken.
I have a Canadian goose story just today.
Did you?
Yes. So I'm heading off to work and come up to an intersection, and off to my left, sure enough, there's the Canadian goose that's walking in the crosswalk
How polite.
very slowly and a bit meandering. And the car in front of me, hesitated, but finally got on by. I'm like, well, how long do I wait for a Canadian goose
Right.
in the crosswalk before before I go around? Well, it kind of paused and went parallel with the road, so I was able to scoot around it. But there you go. Its wings didn't look right, but both wings, kind of stuck out at odd angles, but it was the same angle on both wings. I don't know enough about avian anatomy to say, oh yeah, his wings were broken, but it kind of gave you that impression.
Yeah.
I mean, how often do you see a Canadian goose walking for long periods of time?
Well,
I mean, if
do walk.
you had wings, would you be walking?
Well, flying takes a lot more effort, so there would be times I would be walking, yes. Do you run everywhere? No.
Kind of. This week we do.
Well, B. Pendragon says that there's some Canadian geese in the park next door to the work, and he says they're very mean. They don't live up to being Canadian. And I must tell you that I learned at breakfast with the Canadians on Sunday that the reason that the Canadians are so polite and the geese are so mean is they funnel all of their aggression into the geese and then send them south of the border.
Yeah. So, it's kind of like that scapegoat, but it's a scape goose.
Yeah.
MC3 Cat says, I heard you guys overran the restaurant.
Well, it wasn't hard to overrun a restaurant when there was sadly only one server on staff at the time. And, I have to give that server credit. He did a great job.
Mm-hmm.
He worked hard, and service was much prompter than I expected it to be, considering how overworked and how fast he was running. But
next year, we're going to have to call up and tell the Summit Pancake House that, hey, there's a geocaching event. You might want to have more than one person.
Do something, yeah.
One person on a normal Saturday or Sunday is probably just fine. But when you get 500 geocachers in one area, they're anything but normal.
Right.
So you sat with a bunch of Canadians and lived about it. And then you talked about the obnoxious American that invaded. And that was me.
I can neither confirm nor deny. No, but it was good of you to pop in. That was nice to see you.
Well, I got up there earlier than I had anticipated, and I thought, I'm going to go around and get some of these Adventure Lab caches. Well, I'm sorry. They're just Adventure Labs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still not used to that nomenclature. In the area, and I was able to get 5 before I left to go set up at Apex, or it's the Apex event.
Ooh.
I don't see how you could get anything better than the Apex event.
No. Maybe the Acme.
Oh, yeah. How do you get the Acme? You just order it, right?
Sure. Yeah.
They'll deliver. I mean, they deliver to a coyote. They'll deliver to
To
anybody.
the middle of the desert. Hello. Yeah.
I mean, this puts Amazon to shame and how quickly they deliver.
Well, Amazon and shame kind of go hand in hand on some
Kinda
level.
doesn't it?
But that's a story for another day.
Yeah, and now our podcast will never be sponsored by Amazon. Like it was going to anyway.
Yeah. For those of you listening at home, Alexa, play the Caching in the Northwest podcast. You can thank me later.
Oh, that was nice. Well, Wits End, it's always good to see you,
Always good to be seen.
especially on a Thursday, but any day of the week, it's good to see you. It could be, breakfast. Just he could pop into breakfast at your house.
You never know. Only on days ending in Y.
Well, it leaves the door wide open.
There you
Or
go.
if you do, he'll pop in.
Don't leave the door open. I'm not heating the neighborhood.
Thanks, Dad. Hey, folks, until next week, go close the door and then get out and get caching in the Northwest.